Hi everybody, it's Rita Hickman here, shiatsu massage therapist, body-mind expert, master intuitive healer, and Asian medicine energy worker. And I'm here in Northern Illinois near Chicago. And as you can see, almost all of our snow is gone now, which is good and bad. It'll come back, I'm sure, but it's been a little bit cold lately. And thanks for joining me. I do these every Monday through Friday at 8:15 in the morning, unless for some bizarro reason life gets in the way, which it does for all of us sometimes. And hi, Lisa. Nice to see you. And I'm so glad, hi, Kimmy, that everybody is on to join us today. Today's topic, if you saw in the title, hi, Anne, is you absolutely must watch this video right now. It's a tongue-in-cheek sort of title. I based it on the fact that, hi Eugenia, that we struggle so much with absolutes in this world. You know, let's say 100 years ago, we would be walking through the woods and the squirrels wouldn't tell us that we had to do something immediately. The birds wouldn't say, right now you have to, but we are bombarded with messages everywhere. And if you've been watching these videos for a while, you know that it's our environment that really shapes our thoughts. And so everywhere we see billboards and t-shirts, do it now, you know, you have to do this right now. It's good economic sense to create a sense of urgency in people. But what it's done is it's really shaped our thoughts so that our thoughts are very urgent. And then when something happens, our thoughts immediately go down that urgency route. Oh no, life is terrible. I have to take care of this right now. This is an emergency. I don't see the signs as often anymore where, do you remember when it used to be a sign that said, just because you're having an emergency doesn't mean that I am? And that's really a viewpoint that I think we need to get back to. So this morning, hi Andrea, nice to see you. So this morning, you know, I sat there, I spend every morning, I spend about 10, 15 minutes in a quiet self-reflection, body checking in with where I'm at, and I listen to my thoughts because it's a good way to know what my subconscious is thinking. Hi, Anne, great to see you again. It's a great way to know what the messages are beneath my conscious mind, you know, the voices that are always going in my head. It's good to take a little bit of time and hear what they are, because if we don't know what those voices are, we can't change them. And many times, the voices are very absolute. They're yes, no, black, white, up, down. You know, they're not very soft. They're not very gray. Now, when I was a kid, I grew up in an environment where everything was scary and everything was an emergency. And I had to be really careful. You know, I reacted to everything. But now it's as if the environment we live in, the economic needs, we've learned so much about marketing psychology. Hi, Gail, great to see you. We've learned so much about marketing psychology that it's everywhere. Everything out there to push our buttons and shape our thinking, we're surrounded by it. I remember walking through the woods. I used to run a nature center, and I used to spend a lot of time walking through the woods and the prairie, and it was a public park. And so I'd run into people on the trails. And every time I ran into somebody on the trail, usually it was a t-shirt with some sort of logo or some sort of message. And it had this level of urgency to it. You know, something needs to be done now. I couldn't even take a walk in the woods without being bombarded with some message that said, do it now. This is, you know, so critical, so important. I learned when I was a kid, you know, because I would react to everything and everything was an absolute. Hi, Juliana. Over time, my body couldn't handle that constant triggering, that constant, almost like soap bubbles in a washing machine, pop, 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 constantly. Our bodies can't handle that level of excitement. Hi, Patty. It can't handle that level of stimulation. And so because of that, we're in constant states of fight or flight. And wherever we look, we see these messages, we see these things that say, you have to watch this right now, you must do this right now. If you don't, all is lost. The problem with that is, even if we stay on a good course, even if we've got a great life, even if we've got everything going our way, hi Jojo, these messages still seep in and they still mess with our subconscious. They still plant these seeds in our head. So it's really important to take time on a regular basis to reflect and say, is that what I really believe? Do I really want to stick with that I'm a loser, that's no good, that if I don't do something now, I'll be a failure? Is that really the belief I want to stick with? Because those are a lot of the messages that we hear in our head that we aren't even aware of. And when we start to become aware of them, the opposite isn't, I'm amazing, I'm fantastic, I can do anything I set my mind to. Because that's, our mind immediately says, no, you can't. Do you remember that time that you screwed all that stuff up and you pissed everybody off and life was miserable for a while? Our mind immediately goes into that pattern. So if we want to start changing our beliefs, if we want to start softening our nervous system so it's not reacting so much, you have to accept the old belief. You have to find something that covers the old belief and the new belief. It has to be an umbrella that's bigger. It's not either or. It's not I'm a loser, I need to or I need to stop thinking I'm a loser, or I need to stop thinking that I'm a failure because clearly I'm amazing. It's not one or the other because our system can't handle that. It's immediately going to come in with the arguments and the confrontation and the that's not true and I don't believe that in our own head. But if we come up with a belief that's gentler around the edges, that allows for the one reality we've had, yeah, sometimes we've really screwed up and we have been a loser. And it allows for a new belief of, but sometimes I'm a rock star. Sometimes I get everything right and everything's okay. That belief, if you say that in your head right now, just for a second, if you say that in your head, it feels softer. It feels gentler. And when we dial down just that little bit of stress, hi Margie, great to see you. When we dial down just that little bit of stress, we can get back into a rational mind and back into our intuition. When we're dialed up, we can't hear anything but those negative voices and the emotion that we have. We've already fallen off of our cliff. But when we can take it to a higher level, something that's less urgent, less critical, then it calms us down enough that we can actually take a step. The problem isn't that most people are lazy or most people, don't have any willpower. Or the problem is that most of us are so overwhelmed by how we feel. Hi, Sherry. Good to see you. Most of us are so overwhelmed by how we feel that it paralyzes us. In the whole fight or flight, there's a couple more things that can happen too. It's not just fight or flight. It's fight, flight, freeze, or faint. And most of us are in that freeze level. We're in the level where there's so many choices, so much stimulation, so many voices in our head competing with each other that we end up in this frozen place and not moving forward. That's how we get stuck. Not because we hate ourselves or not because we don't love ourselves, not because we always fail or not because there's something broken in us. It's because our body's going into a natural reaction to protect ourselves. And one of the ways to dial down that reaction is to get out of the either or and come up with a belief that is and, that includes both, that's inclusive, that doesn't say this is a bad belief, this is a good belief. What we've done with our emotions is we've compartmentalized them and said these are good feelings and those are bad feelings. And even if we don't really believe that, hi Bernadette, good to see you. Even if we don't really believe that, we train and teach the people around us that that's what's true, especially our children. When we have a spouse or we have a friend who's down, we don't want to feel what they're feeling. We don't want to deal with their garbage. We're like, move on with your life already. Get over it. And we invalidate how they feel. We're suddenly telling them that feeling sad or angry or hurt is a bad thing to feel. Instead of saying, wow, that's something, that you're feeling. What can I do to help? Can I sit here with you? I did some coaching for one of my favorite nurse practitioners a couple years ago. She was having women coming into her practice, and they had been molested or physically abused or were going through domestic violence of some sort, and she didn't know how to handle it because these women would be telling her their stories. They'd be sharing with her, because she was safe, these things that had happened to them or were happening to them, and she didn't know how to handle it. She didn't know how to engage with them without making it worse. And this is the coaching that I gave her, is whenever something has happened to somebody, whenever anybody feels a little bit in crisis, the last thing you want to do is make them feel more in crisis. You don't want to make them feel a sense of urgency. You don't want to make them feel like they're broken or there's something wrong. You don't want to have pity. What you really want to do is validate the fact that they're strong and smart and capable, and that they can do this, and that you're so grateful that they shared this with you. Because when we're in that place, when we're in that freeze or faint or fight or flight, we need to dial down the felt sense so we can get back into our whole self, back into our mind, back into our intuition, and we're not being hijacked by how we feel. So when the people around us, and I've had to learn this, it's been a long lesson, especially with the people that I love. When the people that I love are going through something difficult, or they're feeling hurt or depressed or angry, the best thing that I can do is just be present. Because what happens is, even though their feelings might make me feel uncomfortable or anxious myself, if I react to it, it will magnify it. It will add more stress and more fuel on the fire. If I'm able to sit with it and be with it, then usually the emotion's able to just pass right by, and they find their rebalance again. So when other people are having these emotions, you really don't have to do anything, because if you try to do something, it'll usually put them further into that fight, flight, faint, or freeze. It'll usually paralyze them even more. They won't be able to figure their way out, and they'll just keep spinning around. Being present with people while they're having uncomfortable feelings is usually the best way to help them through it. And you know what? That works best for you too. When you're just present with your uncomfortable feelings, and I know this sounds like a platitude, doesn't it? But I never understood these things when the gurus would tell me before. What does being present with your feelings mean? It means that without any judgmentalism, just be present with how you feel, without saying it's good, bad, right, or wrong. And if you pay attention to thoughts that are coming in, then you can change the thoughts. So without, being like, I can't believe I'm thinking negatively again, instead you go, isn't that interesting, I'm thinking negatively. What would I rather believe? What would be more fun to believe? It would be easier to believe that I can't figure this out right now, but I will figure it out soon. That's much gentler. When we try to power through or punch through or reject or deny how we're feeling, it turns it into a drama, because now we've got this fight inside of us. Whereas if we can allow and acknowledge and say, that's an interesting point of view. Have you considered this point of view? It starts to change things. One of the lessons I've been getting over the last bunch of years is there's more than two answers to something. Let's say somebody confronts me with something, and I can either pacify and make them feel better, or I can fight back and punch them in the face and protect myself. I thought those were my only two answers. Hi, Sabrina. Good to see you. I thought those were my only two answers. But really, when you pull back out of that felt sense, all of these other solutions and pathways through the river show up. You see all of these answers you didn't see before because you were too busy either wanting to protect or pacify or not feel uncomfortable. Feel uncomfortable. Let yourself be okay with it. Listen to your thoughts and start to change your thoughts to something different. Because when you change your thoughts to, yes, I feel a little depressed right now, but I don't always feel depressed, that happiness boost starts to ease the difficulty, starts to ease the emotion. You acknowledge where you're at. Yes, this is what I'm going through, and it's not always true. You get to choose. And even if you're lying to yourself, hi, Pajal, good to see you again. Even if you're lying to yourself, even if you're delusional, even if you're like, that's the craziest thing I've ever said to myself. You have to start rewiring your brain because you're bombarded by all of these messages that say, do it now. you have all of these problems, you're broken, you need to fix these things, instead of the softer belief that we're all human beings and we're all going through this. You know, when did things like menopause become an illness that needed to be fixed? When did being angry become something that needed to be gotten rid of because anger is danger? You know, that may be true for a lot of other people who are more narcissistic, who are more self-absorbed, who don't have the ability to think about other people, and they're super overreactionary. But for most of us women, especially if you're watching this, that's not your problem. Your problem is that the feelingness of it, the anger or the hurt or the anxiety that comes from that one strict belief. You know, you're saying you don't love me. I know it's true. Okay, it probably is true. Sometimes they don't love you, just like sometimes you don't love them. And the opposite is true of, but sometimes you do love me, and sometimes I do love you. That's the softer, big umbrella belief system. So monitoring, paying attention to the negative thoughts, it's not about getting rid of them. It's about welcoming them and acknowledging them and showing them a different path. And the benefit of that is that it dials down how stressed out you feel. Hi, Monica. Good to see you. It dials down that felt sense, which keeps you from moving, which keeps you from making good decisions. And when it's dialed down, when you can make a good decision, life feels graceful because now you don't feel out of control because of your body. Now you don't feel out of control because of your thoughts. When I was a kid, one of the things that would bother me most is that I felt hijacked by my thoughts and by my feelings. They were so strong and so powerful that I didn't think I had any control over them. So even though there was a part of me that wanted to be smart and funny and interesting, there was another part of me that was completely overreacting, and that's what everybody saw. And so I looked awkward, and I didn't have too many friends, and people didn't know how to get along with me, and I was, ridiculed and teased a lot because the fight or flight, hi Christine, would always take over. But when you start to learn to dial down that fight or flight, then you can be your true authentic self, the self that's funny and interesting and curious and smart and easy to get along with and compassionate and kind and makes people feel good. That's who you really are. And that's who you can be when you start having that compassion for yourself, when you start having that understanding and warmth towards yourself and towards the people around you. How do you do it? As I said, I take that time every day and I validate and love and acknowledge everything that I feel. And I validate, love, and acknowledge everything that I think, and then I give it a different alternative. I give it a better, happier, healthier, smarter, gentler way to look at it. And all the research shows self-compassion is the way to really great success, because then you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're not fighting the belief that you're no good. No, wait, I'm amazing. No, you're no good. You're not polarized like that. You're not so divided. Hi, Martin. And when you're not divided, then you can put your energies where they really belong, which is problem solving what's going on, shaping who you want to be, shaping the life you want to have, and instead of only reacting to how you feel. So it's not your fault. It really isn't. Notice that all of these messages and all of this stuff, they're everywhere. And it's really tough to break free from the brainwashing that all of the marketing gives us. So you have to give yourself time to rewire yourself, to change those neural connections, to change your nervous system so that it balances out all of the messages sent to us. Hi Doug, great to see you. So a lot of people come to me and they want to be fixed, and they want something to be perfect. Why can't we just fix this? And one of the things that I counsel is you don't want to fix it, you just want to dial it down. Because if you fix it, then you're spending all of your time and all of your energy on this one thing, and you've got a lot of things you have to juggle. You've got people and parents and spouses and career and making money and taking care of your house and taking care of your kids and laundry and dishes and getting gas and the oil changed. you have all of those other things to think about. And so if you strictly focus on, I have to fix this, then you're going to drop the ball on everything else. Instead, you say, you know what, this is who I am, and this is what I go through, and these are the messages that are coming into my head, and I just need to balance it out. If you spend all day slumped over at your computer, then you need to spend, 15, 20 minutes at night stretched out the opposite way. Same way with your thoughts. If you spend all day being bombarded by messages that say, do it now, you're broken, this is critical. If you spend all day in that space, you need to balance it out by going to the opposite side and being gentle with yourself. And when you do that, then you'll make it through, okay? So anyways, on a little side note, if you haven't made your breakthrough discovery call, the information is up above. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to chat with you and help you clear up anything that's getting in the way of your intuition. I'm starting a coaching program on February 13th, and the information is above, at least some of the information. Thank you, Gail. I really appreciate that. At least some of the information is above. And if you give me a call, I'll be able to tell you all about it. And I'm doing special pricing because it's beta. Hi, Mark. Good to see you. Because it's a beta program. Oh, Lisa's got a comment. I like to feel that I'm living in that graceful flow and be okay on those days when I'm feeling, I assume it'd say low. It didn't show the whole comment. Yeah. You are living in a graceful flow. Absolutely. That's the thought process we want to stick with. We want to stick with that thought process of everything is unfolding okay, and sometimes it just doesn't look the way that we want it to look like. But there's nothing wrong, you're not broken, and we're in a good space. That's a wonderful guiding belief. That's a much healthier belief than what we're told to believe all of these times. So, anyways, if you haven't made your breakthrough call, make sure. I can then also tell you all about the coaching program that I'm doing. As I said, we're going to be working it out together and figuring out together, and I'd love to have you on board. All right, I think that's it. And tomorrow's Friday. It'll be the last one of the week, and I don't know what I'll talk about yet, but I'm sure it'll be fun. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for being here with me. Bye.